What's going on, guys? It's Mike for Sim Racing 604, and this is the MOZA Racing CS steering wheel. I'm super excited to review this wheel. It's the newest wheel from MOZA Racing, and the reason I'm so excited is that it solves exactly my biggest issue with the R9 wheelbase. I think the R9 wheelbase is a phenomenal deal in the entry-level direct drive market, but they didn't have a budget-friendly wheel to pair with it, but now they do with this CS steering wheel, so I'm excited to get it unboxed and review it. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so as mentioned, this is the CS steering wheel from MOZA Racing, and this is exactly what I wanted. I'm super stoked about this wheel for a couple of reasons, but mainly because it does solve my biggest issue with the R9 wheelbase. I think the R9 wheelbase is a fantastic value, but they only had like a $500 wheel to pair with it, so you were actually paying more for your wheel than you were for the wheelbase, which didn't make sense to me. But they've come through with this, the CS steering wheel. It carries a suggested price of $270. It's not yet released, so double check with the website for the pricing, but $270 is the price. And as you can see on the box, it's a round wheel, but let's go ahead and get it open. Should be a fairly quick video. Just gonna get this open, give you my impressions of it, drive with it, and I'll give you my final thoughts. So also in the box with the wheel, stickers, and then something, I can't quite see what that is. It looks like some sort of spacer or standoff, then an Allen key, so I'll get back to that later. Foam packaging. And, whoa, okay. So, first thing I notice with this CS wheel is it is heavy. This is a substantial wheel. I did not expect it to be this heavy. Feels very, very solid. Looks to be a leather or pleather wrapped wheel. I'd be fine with either. Nicely stitched. It's got black stitching. They could certainly add some color by changing the stitching color, but nice wrap on that wheel. And let's see what we have across the front. Looks like we have a brake bias dial, traction control dial, and then we have these joysticks, the same style of joystick that I have on my GS wheel. Then a number of buttons. Let's count the buttons here. Four buttons, 4 push buttons that is, 2 joysticks, 2 rotary dials, and 2 more buttons. So a total of 6 buttons, plus a light bar across the top here. So first impressions, I mean, it's a bit too black and white perhaps. It would have been nice to see some color here, but of course we have stickers so we can add the color ourselves. But very heavy feel, and I just noticed that it has magnetic shifters. Wow. With carbon fiber shift paddles, and wow. I'm really, really impressed. $269, and it does come with the same high quality quick release that I had on my GS wheel. So yeah, wow. Good first impressions. Not the prettiest wheel in my collection, that's for sure. Just a bit much black and white, but as I say, I'll probably put some stickers on there and change that. But you know, the light bar and the leather wrapping and magnetic shifters and that heavy duty quick release, and as it's big too. I know people are clowning my primitive technology for measuring things. 330 mil diameter, so good size wheel, but oops, that's annoying. But also it just, like, the rim is nice and thick too. It feels unbelievable. I'm having trouble finding words, guys. I gotta admit, I did not expect it to feel like this. This feels really well built, really solid. Gives a good first impression. Again, the base aesthetics, not tremendous, but the build, I mean, goodness, you sure get a lot for $270. I did not expect this. So assuming it drives as well as it feels on first impressions, this is going to be a steal. So it's just way more feature rich. I didn't get a white paper or any sort of spec sheet before I did this review, so this is, you know, me just sort of going off the cuff here on the feature set. But yeah, super impressive. Super impressive. That same action as the GS wheel. The GS wheel has the probably nicest shifters I own. And yeah, same shifter action. I just can't believe this price for what you get. So super impressive, but that's probably enough of me blubbering over it. So I'm going to get this mounted onto my R9 wheelbase, and then I'll take it for a drive, and then come back to the table and give you my final thoughts on the MOZA Racing CS steering wheel. Alright guys, so here we are in the pits in R Factor 2 at Sebring, Porsche 911 GT3R, and I've mapped some of the buttons on my wheel. So I've got the glance joystick, I've got that set up, so pushing that joystick left looks to the left, right to the right, and then I've got up and down. Not sure why you would ever want that, but you can do that, so that's kind of handy for the joystick. And then the joystick on the left is labeled as menu, and so what I've done is basically set up all my heads-up display options. Pushing the joystick rather, cycles through the different information you can have, and then pushing it left toggles the information at the top of the screen, position and lap counter. Pushing it to the right toggles that information box on and off, and then up I think is the last one. You can see at the bottom of the screen there, hopefully you can see that, but that little bar is indicating where I am relative to the other cars. So that works fine. The buttons are buttons, nothing more or less than you'd expect. The only one I know I've got mapped right now is the pit limiter, so it works just fine. Let's see, does that do anything? No, I don't have the rest of them mapped, but I do have the two dials, which by the way have really nice action. It's a really firm turn. I like the feel of them. So of course I can turn up or down my traction control. And the other one, of course, you could map to ABS if you wish. In my case, it is brake bias as it is labeled by default. So again, that good action feels nice. So yeah, everything seems to be working. Hopefully the camera picks it up, but this light bar here, the tachometer bar. Whoops, did I just select? Had auto shifting turned on, sorry about that. Let me just shift into neutral here, and then the light bar, as you can see, works perfectly. You can customize this in the Pit House software. So right now I've got it going from yellow to red to purple to tell me when to shift. And of course when you go over rev, starts to flash. And it's nice and bright. That's about 50% brightness. Not sure how that's coming through on the camera, but it's plenty bright. So if you wanted to go, you know, significantly brighter than that, you could, but it's bright enough for me to see even in a well-lit room. So everything should be good. Let's get out on the track at Sebring and get a feel for the CS racing wheel. And the first thing I notice, the initial impression, the first thing I notice is that it feels like a passenger car steering wheel. Leather wrapped, of course, so it does have that nice feel, but the size of it, it's such a huge, heavy wheel, you know, 330 mil across and a nice thick diameter on the outside, and yeah, it feels really nice to hold. Again, it feels like what I drive day to day, so you don't feel like you're handling a toy, that's for sure. It does feel just like it was, you know, taken directly out of a car and adapted to gaming, as opposed to the other way around, as opposed to a gaming controller trying to pretend it's a steering wheel. So very impressive feel, and just could hardly imagine a more solid feeling wheel. I mean, this ranks among my most robust feeling steering wheels. Really feels great. And yeah, that light bar, nice and bright. I can see it even at 50% brightness. So yeah, obviously with a wheel this large and heavy, I had to turn up the force feedback a little bit. I'm coming from the GS wheel, and it's just a little GT style wheel, and you can feel the forces more. As you can see, I don't know Sebring all that well. It's been forever since I've driven here at Sebring, so hopefully I can clean that up. Maybe I'll put in a lap or two. But yeah, very nice feeling wheel. It feels so solid. As far as the button action and that, feels really, really good. As I say, the rotary dials feel especially nice. I really like the heavy action on those. The buttons themselves, I mean, you can definitely feel it. It's not as if you can't tell that you've pushed it, but could be a little more firm. It's the same thing I said about the GS wheel. I mean, is it a bad button? No. It still outperforms what you'll find sort of in the Logitech Thrustmaster space, or at least the wheels that I have tried. But not the best feeling buttons I've felt. Could just be a little more firm. But honestly, that's a pretty minor thing. Depending on how often you're pressing buttons, it probably won't affect you too much. And something else that's cool about having the leather wheel as opposed to suede, most of the wheels I own are suede. Something else that's cool about the leather is that you don't need gloves. In this case, it's a pretty slick feeling leather wrap, so if you do find that your hands are losing grip, then of course you might want to think about getting a pair of grippy gloves, but certainly not necessary. It's not like a suede wheel that's the dyes are going to bleed off onto your hands. But yeah, I really like this. I really like this. As I have mentioned several times, I don't love the looks of the wheel in its default form, but I do love the feel of it. I think it's incredibly robust feeling, very solid. There's no play in this at all. Maybe a tiny bit of play, but yeah, overall a very, very solid feeling wheel, and nice, tight, quick release. Get around there, please, Porsche. And I haven't talked about the shifters yet, but the shifters feel great. I suspect they use the same mechanism and the same magnets even as the GS wheel, and I'm just in love with the shift action on that wheel. So good move by MOZA, keeping those. It doesn't have the analog paddles like the GS wheel, but yeah, this is their entry-level wheel. So of course you wouldn't expect it to match the GS wheel feature for feature. And honestly, how often do your analog paddles really come into play? So it might be a feature you don't even miss. And yeah, just incredibly solid, and does give you that realistic feeling because there's no flex in this wheel, because the diameter is so large across, but also the diameter of the rim itself. It does feel like you're just driving a regular car. It feels like you've stepped from your own car into, or it feels like you've brought, rather, from your own car, your steering wheel. And that's just very impressive. So really loving this CS. Incredible what they've done at this price point, it really is. I could hardly be happier with it. So we'll finish up this lap, and then I'll get into my final thoughts. Oh, and by the way, the bolts on this wheel are spaced at 70 mil. So even if you didn't like the circular leather-wrapped wheel and wanted to replace it with, you know, a turn racing wheel or something like that, or a Sparco rim, whatever, you could just go ahead and do that. And as long as it has a 70 mil bolt pattern, presumably you could put it on and just use this button box and your MOZA wheel. So that's a cool feature. So yeah, that's just about it from the track, guys. It's difficult to really demonstrate a wheel all that well. All I can do is share my thoughts, and very good impressions of this wheel. I love the feeling of it. I love how robust it is, and you have to kind of keep reminding yourself that this is their entry-level wheel. Like, you can look at features that are missing, sure, but what you would want at this price point is just something solid. It doesn't have to be fancy necessarily, but is it solid? And the answer with the CS wheel is yes, 100%. It is a very, very solid feeling wheel with enough features. It's not as feature rich as the GS, but again, you wouldn't expect it to be because we're talking about a lower price point, more aimed at an entry level DD market. And for that entry level DD market, they have crushed. Whoop. Not sure if the sim missed that shift or if the wheel missed that shift, but there was a little slip there. It's the first one I've detected. I've ran several hours with the wheel so far. So I'm not sure if that was something I did or something the sim did or the wheel. But it doesn't seem to be occurring anymore, so that's probably just a mistake somewhere. But yeah, guys, I mean, pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I love the feeling of the wheel, and especially knowing it comes in at an entry-level price point, or not entry-level, but you know what I mean, more budget-friendly price point. Really assuring, really cool. All right, let's get into final thoughts. All right, guys, so time for some final thoughts on the MOZA Racing CS steering wheel, and I'm sure you guys guessed it from watching the video so far. I love it. I think it's really, really great. Surprised when I opened the box at what exactly it was. I came into this review with no white papers, no marketing papers, nothing. I had no idea what this thing was going to look like, feel like, or any of the specs of it, and I'm very impressed at the sub $300 price point, at the $270 price point. I mean, you get a lot, you really do, and I think if you're in the market, if you're in that sort of entry-level direct drive market, looking to spend under $500 or the $500 range for your wheelbase, and then don't want to spend another $500 on your wheel, I mean, I think this is going to be hard to beat. I really do. It's yet another impressive release from MOZA Racing. I was very impressed with the R9 wheelbase. I'm equally impressed, if not more, with this CS steering wheel. I think it's great. So getting into the pros, neutrals, cons of the MOZA Racing CS wheel. Pros, first and foremost, the build. It's an extremely solid feeling wheel. It's heavy. There's no flex. As I said during the driving segment, it doesn't feel like a gaming device that's meant to feel like a steering wheel. It feels like it was lifted straight from a car and sort of adapted to the gaming world. Everything about it feels lifelike, solid, and just very impressive build quality. Second is the features. Second, and the positive, that is the features. To have magnetic shifters and that heavy-duty quick release leather-wrapped wheel, 330 mil. I mean, you get a lot. The lighted tachometer bar for $270. I mean, you get a lot for this wheel. It's a very, very impressive wheel. It's not nearly as feature rich as the GS wheel, of course, but for the sort of budget-minded consumer, you do really get a lot. And also in the pro category, of course, is the price, $270. That's an incredible value. I don't know. I did some research. I'm sure there are competitors at this price point. None immediately jumped out at me for getting all of this, the quick release and the magnetic shifters and, the leather wrapped wheel. Plus the button box at the $300, sub $300 price point. I don't know that there is a competitor right now. I suspect there is somewhere, but I don't know what it is. So I'm just very, very impressed. And then the cons, the looks. I've talked about this quite a lot at this point in the video. I'm not in love with how it looks. It's red, or excuse me, it's black and white, and I think a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, something like that, could really go a long way with this wheel. And it's just simple things. It doesn't have to increase the cost, I wouldn't think at all. Like, for example, the black stitching that goes around the inside of the leather wrapping here. If they made that red, if they made that blue, it would make it look a little bit more colorful. And then maybe perhaps some of the writing on the front could be a different color other than white. It just looks a little bit too plain for my liking. And then finally, you can probably see it. I'll try and put a picture up, but the leather has a funny finish where it meets the wheel, and I don't know if that's going to peel over time or what, but anyway, that's the second con, is the sort of finish of the leather where it meets the wheel. But honestly, it's nitpicking. It really is. There's not a lot of negative things to say about this wheel. Incredible value and really, really well built. As a consumer in this sort of price range, you're looking for something that's going to last. You're probably not the type of person who's going to go out and buy 4 or 5 more wheels behind this, just to make sure you always have the right wheel. You want one wheel to last and be versatile. I think the styling is very versatile. I think the build is very versatile and very robust, and is going to serve you well. So just an incredible value, and really well built. And I don't really have enough good things to say. So it's an excellent pairing with the R9 wheelbase. Really, congratulations to MOZA Racing. This one has really taken me aback. Again, without the advance notice of what I was getting, this has been a surprise to me. I've spent a few hours with it at this point, and just been continuously impressed with what they've put together here. So again, really well done to MOZA Racing. And I think those in the market will be happy with this. So that is my review of the CS steering wheel from MOZA Racing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to MOZA Racing for sending me this for review. And hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of this one on my rig in the future. Thank you for watching.